Now, we do overreact on Monday with the NFL, but I wanted to have Kirk Herbstreit on from the mothership because do we overreact to college football? Do we overreact to anything that we saw over the weekend? And we bring in Kirk Herbstreit. By the way, College Game Day will be in Louisville, second consecutive year. That'll be coming up this weekend. ABC Saturday Night Football. It'll be Clemson versus Louisville at 8 Eastern. And Kirk Herbstreit joins us. Herbie, thanks for joining us. The overreaction in college football today is what?
That Oklahoma is going to win the national championship. You know, they went into Columbus and second half just completely dominated Ohio State. So, you know, you're going to have that reaction. But I'll tell you what, they looked. If you look at the landscape around the country right now, you can make an argument they look as good as anybody in the country after a couple of weeks. But yeah, I think in college, NFL football, anything, you see those teams. You've been waiting so long. And you have a perception of what you think what's going to happen. And when that does not happen, for better or worse, people are just going to obviously go off the deep end on what they think might be coming up down the road.
What do you think the reaction is in Ohio, in Columbus today?
Oh, you lived in Ohio, and you know how sometimes the economy is affected, especially in Central Ohio, by how Ohio State does. So it is get rid of actually that one might be the better overreaction is get rid of JT Barrett, Ohio State. I'm just saying with some of the, if you're doing a local radio show in Columbus today, it's going to be get rid of JT Barrett, fire the offensive coordinator. Our defense is terrible. You know, it'll be that kind of reaction, I would think.
People overreacting to Baker Mayfield. I think they're underreacting to how he played. I think they're overreacting to the flag incident after the game. Your thoughts as you were watching?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think the way he played, it was a great reminder that people forget this kid, first 2 years as a starter in Norman, ended up in New York City as a Heisman finalist. And right now, if he stays healthy, there's no reason to believe he is not headed back in that direction again. The kid's just one of the more competitive players I've watched play that position, and he played with a chip on his shoulder again Saturday night. So I'm with you. The way he played was incredible. What happened after the game? I mean, that's just his personality. He felt a little bit tweaked by Ohio State, I guess, last year, singing their song at the end of the game. And by the way, they do that after every game. But he used that as motivation. And so when he got his chance, he did a victory lap with the flag. And then what was surprising is he took it to the next level when he ran out to the middle of the field on the block O and put the flag down at the 50. That was probably a little bit uncalled for.
Can you imagine if you would have done that, if you beat Michigan and you decided to plant the flag there at the Big House?
Yeah, you know what? I think I was trying to think back. I mean, T.O., when he scored a touchdown in the middle of a game, running out to the star and doing that was, above and beyond. But I can't really think of a guy doing anything like that. There was something with Michigan and Michigan State a few years ago where a Michigan player in East Lansing did something in the pregame. But that was, if you know Baker personally, which I do, he's just one of these guys. I keep saying he's a young Brett Favre. Like, I'm talking Southern Miss, early Green Bay Packer Brett Favre, where he just plays the game. Like, if you beat him in ping pong, you're not ending. You're playing again.
Yeah.
And if you beat him in checkers, and then if he beats you, he's going to stand up and let you know about it. Like, it's just his way. I don't think he meant it to come across in a way that was belittling or just being completely disrespectful. I think it was more playful for him. But obviously, when you do what he did, it's definitely not going to come across that way to Ohio State fans anyway.
He's Kirk Herbstreit. Game day will be at Louisville. It's Clemson against Louisville coming up Saturday night. I find the Lamar Jackson opinions to be interesting, that you have this kid who had an incredible year. You win the Heisman. And it's like we want to move on from Lamar Jackson because he doesn't fit the NFL prototype. Let's move on. We're going to squeeze in Rosen there. Darnold's ready. Baker Mayfield may become. Lamar Jackson is actually better, I think, this year than last year. And I don't know if people are going to give him enough credit for what he's going to do this year.
Well, the preseason, when you do all these shows in August and everybody wants to talk and forecast who's going to win this, who's going to win that, and what about the Heisman? I've never seen a guy win a Heisman as a sophomore and come back and nobody really want to talk about him. And I think it had everything to do with the way their season ended. I don't think it's, how does he project to the NFL?
Okay.
If you remember, they were on the kind of that 5-6 spot late in the year in November, and everybody thought this team is still a factor in the playoff. And then they got embarrassed on a Thursday night by Houston. I think he was sacked 10 or 11 times. They lost to Kentucky. They went to their bowl game and got sacked 8 or 9 times against LSU. So they just faded. And it was interesting. He still won the Heisman despite those losses. And I think coming into this year, those 3 games, I think were on people's minds where he didn't play well, the team didn't protect him, and I think people just forgot about him. But as we've seen in these first 2 weeks, he is a human highlight. Every time his hands are on the football, you hold your breath. If there's an most electrifying player in the country by far, it's him. So for him to come in this week and go up against arguably one of the best defenses, if not the top defense in the country, the Clemson Tigers, it'll be great. Defending national champs against the defending Heisman Trophy winner. But you're right, he's not quite yet getting probably the hype that he deserves. And if he wins this weekend, that'll change in a hurry.
When I watch Sam Darnold, if I was trying to explain what he does so well, the brilliance of Sam Darnold, I don't know if I could put it into words. It's almost like you have to watch what he does. And you played the position. There are certain guys who play the position and have they're wired differently. And it feels like Darnold is wired differently. What do you see with Darnold that stands out so much?
The thing that stands out to me is he's a flatliner. If you watch him, there's never a moment that's too big for him. And I think if you talk to Bill Polians of the world and anybody who evaluates quarterbacks who are in college and tries to project them and how they'll be able to fit into the NFL, I think sometimes we get caught up in the system that they run or how fast they are or how big an arm they have, or just that they're 6'4", 235 pounds, or whatever it is. We get caught up in sometimes that aspect of it. But at the end of the day, there's 2 things that matter: your decision making and your accuracy. Those are the 2. When the dust settles, those are the 2 things in any quarterback that you're evaluating. And Sam Darnold is able to, in my opinion, do that as well as any quarterback in the college game. And then you throw in what I think is also important, mental toughness, like an ability to face that 3rd and 8 when you're going to get blitzed, or your team's down by 4 with 3 minutes to go and you get the ball in your hands. You either have that personality to be able to handle that or you don't. And Sam Darnold, from the time he took over last year for Max Brown, the pressure being that USC quarterback, he's just kind of taken it in kind of a ho-hum attitude, playing Stanford this past week. He doesn't really play with a chip on his shoulder. He doesn't really play with a lot of emotion. He just is able to go out and execute that offense. And I think Clay Helton, the head coach, and T. Martin, their offense coordinator, they've kind of found what works for him, where his strengths are. And he's actually a very athletic kid, high school basketball player, one of the best players in his area. And so the reason I say that, because if you watch and you do so much of the NFL stuff, when you watch the great college or great NFL quarterbacks, they're not necessarily running as much, but they have that pocket awareness. They're athletic enough to move around in the pocket, avoid a little bit of a pass rush, move their shoulders, slide in the pocket. He's that guy. And I think he'll be really, really good at the next level. And obviously he's not done in what he's trying to do this year for SC.
Herbie, safe travels. Great to talk to you. Tell the gang we said hello.
I sure will. Thanks for having us, Ron. We'll talk to you soon.
That's Kirk Herbstreit, ESPN College Game Day analyst.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.